Nate. Thanks a lot for being here today at the Swiss Waterski Resort with myself and Waterski Nation for this video called The Ultimate Skier. We appreciate you being here today. So your episode is called Space, and the one thing ever since you kind of burst onto the scene that everybody says from the shore is like, wow, it looks like the boat's going slower. And that's obviously attributed to how early you are in the course. So can you talk to us a little bit about, at what point in your skiing did you realize that you were running like a different line than everybody else was running, that you were running so much earlier in the course, or was that, something that really just sort of happened?
I think it's more of something that just sort of happened for me. I mean, I grew up obviously up in Indiana where we didn't have skiers of our level at all up there. So it was just me skiing with a couple of friends and my dad and family. So the way I learned to ski was just kind of by feel and, watching others up there and my dad or somebody else that I ski with giving me pointers here and there. So I didn't really study myself too much or say, hey, I need to do this or do that. It's just a way that I kind of felt and learned and adapted the style of skiing for myself.
Yep. And so would you say that it's the space that you can create in the course, is that more due to the speed that you carry, or is it more to do with how much angle your ski turns, or what is it that, which one of those two components is it that you feel is the biggest, factor for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about, it's the start of the pass. I mean, I think it comes all the way from the gate and the turning that you get and the space and how wide and early you can get into one and come around the backside of it with a tight line. I mean, if you ski right at one and you have a loose line and you're 15 feet down course, it's really hard to create space the rest of the course. So if you can get a good start, you can keep that spacing throughout. But it's all about, keeping a rhythm and staying in sync with the boat and the speed control, as well as, a tight line and all of that.
Yeah. And are you doing anything specifically with your ski to either make it turn earlier or make it carry more speed? I mean, we all know you've ridden a little bit bigger ski than what most people do at your weight. Is that for that to carry more speed, or that's just which ski you can run the most buoys on?
When I was 16 years old, I was on a 65-inch ski, and my dad had demoed a ski that was a 67, and I decided, I want to try it just for the heck of it, and instantly started running 6 buoys more. It was a 67-inch ski, so I started skiing on a longer ski when I was 16 years old, all the way up through where I am now. And a few years ago, I did try a 68, and I did like it. There was some consistency to it, but it just felt harder. It was more difficult to run buoys. It was harder on your body, but it did feel like it was on a rail and very predictable and stable. So I don't know that the size of the ski is just more of what I'm used to and what I got on several years ago. But I don't think there's anything specific that I do to set a ski up to make it do that. I think that's more of a technique-wise type thing in the style that I've learned to ski. As many people pretty much know, then on my ski, the settings have been the same for 10 years.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that I've really changed to make anything better.
And, since you started running 41 so much, I don't know, man, it's got to be, 5-6 years since you've been running it a lot. I hear the buzz term around the world being light on the line, but I've driven you enough to know that you're definitely not light on the line. You're just heavy in different spots than most people are. What does that do in terms of, is that like when you get late, how do you, like you pull hard behind the boat. When you get late, how do you resist, what's the deal? You resist spiking the boat right out of the turn, but you still, is there just a zone where this is my work zone and I'm not going to pull unless I'm in this zone, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the light on the line thing, it may look that way, but it certainly doesn't feel that way. And I think you've been around, we've skied enough that I have a stack of bent handles in my garage. So,
Yeah.
It's not a light on the line thing. It's more, I like to think of it as maybe being efficient and doing it in the right spots to where it doesn't feel like it's such a hard bang or load on the boat outside, out wide. So, again, I think it's kind of, skiing that line wide and early, coming around the backside of the buoy, and then being, strong and aggressive into that first wake, but resisting through the second wake. So kind of not spiking the boat, but also not coming off of it as hard as well. And especially when you're running that earlier line or you're early and wide into a buoy, if you just come off that handle, you're going to fall narrow and, drop into the buoy and probably fall. But if you can continue to resist through that second wake and whitewash a little bit, keep that line going outbound and your ski and body going outbound, that's kind of being efficient behind the boat and not doing it all in one spot.
Right. Excellent. And so in terms of the boat, do you set the boat up? I mean, what letter do you use and why do you use it? And is that something to do with where you intend to pull behind the boat? And could you talk a little bit about that?
That kind of goes back to the fin setting thing. When Zero first came out, I chose letter A. And then numbers came out and I was A3. And somebody accidentally pulled me on A2 and I liked it, and that's where I've been ever since.
Got
so I've tried other letters every once in a while just for fun, but I don't like change. I like to keep things the same and just take out one less variable from everything. So A2 is just kind of where I've been, and it probably works the most with my style of skiing as well.
Yeah, excellent. So can you give us your highlight for 2019? Like, what was the moment in 2019 where, you're done skiing and you're like, man, that was awesome. I pulled that off, or I did that.
I think the last two pro events for me of the year out in California and then the Malibu Open and Charleston, I felt that I did ski a fair bit before those. I prepared for them well, and I skied well out in California, and I think that I skied well in Charleston at Malibu Open, and I give it to Will Asher for just absolutely killing it in the last round. So I was comfortable. I thought that I skied well, and I did what I could, and just flat out got out skied in that. So for me, the end of the year was kind of the special part for me.
Awesome. And lastly, this series is called The Ultimate Skier, and many people will call you the Ultimate Skier, but it wouldn't be complete without adding Andy Mapple into it. Could you talk a little bit about Andy? I know you guys skied a lot together. In the end, before he passed away, I think he was trying to pick and see what made you tick and vice versa. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I didn't meet Andy until later in my life, just being from Indiana and all that, but he did come up when he first started Mapple skis or AM skis or whatever it might have been called. He was working close with a guy that skied up there, Adam Cord, and so Andy would make trips up there and ski a lot with myself and Scott Tynan at Sawmill Lake, and I got to ski with him a little bit, and it was kind of crazy at first because it was somebody such a great skier. Getting in the boat made me nervous and all that, but it was interesting to hear what he had to say when I skied. This is before I really started getting into the pro scene, and some of the things he said I would never think of doing, but it was interesting to hear. And as time went on, I started working with him a little bit with boats, and I kind of learned where he came from, where I came from, and how to help both of us in the middle. But also traveling to different tournaments, it was interesting to hear what he had thought and his experiences at different events and venues, things that I would never think of, but it was great information for him to pass along, of different things to think about when you go certain places. So, again, I think, Andy was amazing for this sport, and I think he pushed this sport along and carried it on his back for a very long time, and I think we all should be very appreciative of what Andy did on and off the water.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for being here with us today, Nate, and
Yeah,
it's awesome to have you.
Yeah, thank you.